Let's take apart the carbs today, and you'll see that someone had already replaced these, what the stock screw was, with these Allen headed screws, and they're stainless as well. They're typically JIS. You will need JIS drivers to take this apart, or you will strip them and have a lot of not fun. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws that hold the plenum to the rack. Take them all out, put them in a bucket. So as you are pulling this thing apart, there are springs that fit here. There's 2 more over here. Take these things out first because they wander off. They will be gone in a heartbeat. You will never see them again, and you will be stuck wondering, how am I going to find a spring to replace that? So remember, take these off before you pull anything else off of here. Springs first. They're right there, right there. Alright, you can see that the plenum has been removed from the carb rack. There is a gotcha, however. These little inserts, they will sometimes be here, or they'll sometimes stay here. You need to keep them with the plenum because we're going to be cleaning all of these. We don't want to lose it. Also, these little trumpets, I guess as they are called, it would serve you well to soak them in the same solution you soak the carb boots in, so that they make a nice tight seal, because otherwise, again, you have problems with unmetered air getting in. Next, you need to take off, we're going to take off all of the various bits that are attached. Again, I bought a rebuild kit, and so there are these little cotter pin like things all over the place instead of the typical, they're one-use little pins you can bend over on themselves. Not much to them. You just got to take all the hardware off, and it really helps to take a picture before you start. These are the linkages that control the choke, and this linkage here, I'm sorry, this bar here is the one that controls the opening of the butterflies. You should label the carbs with a Sharpie or something else. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, because the order of the carbs matter. There are 2 different types of jets for the main jet. One's a downdraft, one's an updraft. In addition, there's different springs under these little caps for different years, and there's also different jets besides the main jet for different years. So for the 83, the springs and the jets are all the same except for the updraft, downdraft thing. So I don't have to do as much work and verification. However, to take these apart, you need to loosen this. This apparently is supposed to be rubber-like, but it's they're so old they feel like plastic. You loosen these up, which allows you to pull this part back. What we're doing now is taking out the choke circuit. The idea is we need to get this thing pulled back out of here. Yeah, that's always fun. Ugh. There are springs here and there's springs inside here too. Fun times. Once you've gotten this out, and I'll do it after struggling off camera, there's also the pilot jet. You unscrew this and there is the little needle and a spring and a washer and then a little bit of rubber. And you'll need to go in with like a paper clip or something really tiny and small to fish the washer and the little grommet rubber bit out, because they have to come out or they'll get destroyed in the sonic cleaner. After that, it's just a matter of taking off these screws, there's a spring, and this little piston here, and there's a slide that goes through all that, and there's rubber back behind there. You need to verify there's no tears. All the jets are under here, and they're just screwed out. Take all the guts, all the stuff that's not rubber, put it in a little basket, put it in the sonic cleaner for at least 15 minutes to half an hour. Then you can take the whole carb body and shove that in the sonic cleaner as well. Use something like Simple Green. You don't want to use anything too caustic, but you want them to come out clean. You can also use, I've heard, Mr. Clean. Anything that's not going to attack both the aluminum, I believe they're aluminum, and there is a felt seal underneath here that you do not want to destroy. And I've never touched these butterflies. They still have the original JIS screws, and I'm not touching those with a 10-foot pole. And then basically, once you've cleaned everything out here, all the circuits, you put it all back together again and reassemble it. It's not a whole lot to it. This is the choke circuit that came out of here. And you need to remove this little bit. It slides right out, or whichever direction it goes. And then this piece will turn out. That's what I've forgotten. Put that in our little basket. This is the little droll, the bowl, the bottom of the bowl here. This is the drain plug. We'll clean that, clean that. This is our little idle circuit, and the teeny tiny little screw, or a bushing and washer. They have to come out. You might not think they're in there, but they're in there. Clean that, and then just a matter of removing this. This is screwed into this piece. This one screws out, and then the float will come out. Boink. That. Do the float valve. Float I do not do. This unscrew, there's a crush washer under there. And that's it for inside of here. You don't actually clean anything underneath here. There's a little itty bitty, I don't know what it's called, but it's just a pin that comes through here that connects it to this. You can see that metal part, but you don't have to clean those. So I had forgotten to mention, this is an air tube. This is a broken air tube, and this happened when putting it back into here. Make sure when you're putting the carbs back together that the air tubes line up so they can go back into those holes correctly, or you will break an air tube. Second, lube these little O-rings here, and buy new ones if you're working with a very old carb set, because they will leak. The air tubes, they don't matter as much. They're just forcing exhaust gases back into the plenum. The fuel tubes matter a lot. You need these to be able to seal back up. So go ahead, and you can actually buy a metric set of O-rings, and they've got all the various sizes you'd actually need. You just have to buy a big set. The V4 market no longer sells this stuff, and we don't have exactly an all-in-one place to do that, but I'm sure there are places on eBay where you can buy a full carb rebuild kit. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was these right here. These are stainless steel Allen heads that fortunately my kit came with, or my carbs came with. Someone had already worked on the bike that had done all the Dave Dodge mods to it. So these will be JIS screws by default. It sucks a lot replace them. Do not put the JI screws back in, because at some point you will pull this back off, and you will curse yourself if you do that. A couple other things to point out here. So when we take out this piece here and the spring, it's very important to line this little itty bitty hole right there up where it belongs and make sure that this doesn't get torn or overlap or anything else, because if this breaks, it's an absolute nightmare to replace. You can order a replacement part, but you have to cut into this thing, cut it apart. It's an absolute nightmare. Avoid it if you can. Let's also talk about float height. So setting these float heights, you need to tilt it so it's just barely closing, and I'm finding that getting that inner ridge right there set to 7mm is what's working best for me. I don't know why that is. It should not be. It should be set to 6, but that's not working. It's flooding out. But that's how you have to tilt it until it just starts to close the little valve. That's how you set the height on these. All right, one more tip. When right down in here is the idle set screw, and that for the 83 is 3 turns out. For older, or for the 84 and up, that changes to like 2 3/4 or 2 1/2 or whatever it is. So look at the manual, look at the websites, determine which one's needed for you, and go with that. Now keep in mind when lining all this stuff back up. So here's the fuel tubes that connect the 3 carbs. These arms need to come together this way. And the same goes for here as well. You need to make sure that the arm is going to line up correctly when you're putting everything back together with the fuel tubes in. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad day. As such. Now the springs for those things are here, and eventually they will go into these areas. There's 3 of them. Also, like I had said, you need to line the air tubes, which go in here, and also in here. When you're lining everything up with the plenum, this is the front, number 1, 3, 2, 4, fits on this way. You need to make sure these little gaskets fit through there, otherwise you will break one of them like I did. Now let's see if I can get this thing to focus. Inside there, 4 tiny little holes. So what you need to do to set the sink on these is you set number 1 so it's only halfway showing one of those tiny holes using the screw here, which is the idle adjustment knob. Well, you got whatever ways makes it work. There we go. So just 1/2 that hole showing. And they'll use this knob to then do that to this carb. And they flip it over and do number 3 and then number 4. And that is how you bench sync the carbs so they are all working in sync.